The moment I stumbled upon that text message, my world shattered into a million sharp pieces. It was a casual day, one that had begun with laughter and coffee with Sarah, my closest friend. But then, my heart sank as I read the words on her screen, words that revealed an unimaginable betrayal, a secret she had kept hidden under layers of false smiles. My own hands trembled as I scrolled through the messages, and with each new line, I felt the ground giving way beneath me. How could the person I trusted the most turn out to be a stranger, cloaked in deceit? My chest tightened with disbelief, and it felt as though all the air had been sucked from the room. There was no question in my mind. This was not just betrayal. It was an assault on all we had shared. With every ounce of love I had poured into our friendship, now tainted by this revelation, I felt an overwhelming urge to retreat. The vibrant world outside became too painful to bear. I chose silence, withdrawing from friends, family, and the colors of life around me. The laughter that once filled my days was replaced by the oppressive weight of my grief. I found solace in stillness, in the quiet echoes of my thoughts, unable to articulate my heartbreak to anyone. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks blended into months, the silence transformed into a vow, a promise I had made to myself to protect my wounded heart from further anguish. But even in this silence, the questions haunted me. What is trust if it can be so easily broken? What is the value of friendship in a world where betrayal lurks just beneath the surface? But just when I thought I could hide from the truth forever, the universe had other plans. A shocking revelation about Sarah began to unravel before me, one that threatened to bring the walls of my silent sanctuary crashing down around me. The news came as a thunderstorm breaking the stillness, a dark secret that could change everything I thought I knew about her and about the friendship we once cherished. The stakes grew higher, and I stood at a crossroads, the burden of choice heavy upon my shoulders. Should I remain silent, honoring the pain of my own betrayal? Or should I find the courage to expose the truth and confront the ghost of our broken bond? In that pivotal moment, the weight of revenge clashed with the possibility of forgiveness, and the story of our entwined lives hung in the balance, begging for resolution. In the months that followed my vow of silence, I discovered an unexpected refuge in the stillness of my surroundings. The world outside seemed to blur, the noise fading into a distant hum, while I nestled into the cocoon of my own thoughts. This quietude became a double-edged sword. While it offered a shelter from betrayal, it also amplified the echoes of my conflict and pain. With each passing day, I grappled with my decision to withdraw, questioning whether I had chosen the path of healing or simply built a prison for my heart. The solitude wrapped around me like a thick fog, making it difficult to see if I was moving forward or spiraling deeper into despair. It was in this liminal space that I sought answers, wrestling with the concept of forgiveness and the shifting sands of trust. As I grappled with these emotions, I turned to new outlets for expression, discovering that silence could be filled with profound meaning. I poured my heart onto blank canvases, letting the brush transform my pain into vibrant strokes of color. Each painting became a story, a fragment of my soul escaping the confines of my muted existence. Alternatively, my journal filled with words I could never speak, thoughts swirling in a tempest of hurt, betrayal, and longing. In these private moments of creation, my silence took on a voice of its own, resonating with the chaos inside me. The clash between my external quiet and internal tumult became a captivating saga, one that invited those watching to ponder. Can art heal the wounds of betrayal, or does it merely mask them? Yet, as I painted and wrote, a persistent question loomed overhead. Was I truly healing, or was I merely treading water in a sea of unresolved emotions? The colors I splashed onto canvases expressed my longing for freedom, while the words I penned reflected the shadows of resentment that lingered. I felt the tension building, like a pressure cooker ready to burst. Would I ultimately find the closure I yearned for within this silence? Or would it morph into a source of bitterness that could eat away at my resolve? The audience, captivated by my journey, remained on the edge of their seats, waiting to see if the quiet would bring solace, or if I would succumb to the darkness threatening to stifle the light that flickered within me. Just as I began to find a semblance of freedom within my silence, the ground beneath my feet shifted once more. It was an ordinary afternoon when I stumbled upon whispers that sent shockwaves through my tranquil existence. Word spread like wildfire. Sarah's life was unraveling under the weight of a dark and potent secret, one that could not only damage her reputation but also alter the very fabric of her life. As the pieces started to fit together, I was drawn into the depths of this newfound revelation. The thrill of discovery clashed violently with my vow of silence. Part of me wanted to scream, to expose the truth I had spent months burying beneath layers of hurt, while another part of me hesitated, questioning whether such a revelation would be an act of justice or simply revenge. The secret whispered through my mind like a haunting melody, a puzzle that hinted at the turmoil beneath Sarah's composed exterior. I found myself leaning into the growing suspense, torn between the desire to protect her and the yearning to unearth the truth she had so desperately hidden. With each piece of information that came to light, I felt the intensity of my inner conflict reigniting, pulling at my heart like an invisible thread. How could I remain silent while knowing that the very person who had shattered my trust was now standing on the precipice of her own destruction? The thought of the consequences weighed heavily on me. Revealing this secret could shatter her world, and I couldn't help but wonder if she, too, deserved this kind of reckoning. In this volatile moment, the stakes grew impossibly high. The audience, entranced by my tale, could feel the tension crackling in the air as I wrestled with the implications of unveiling Sarah's truth. Would the revelation bring about a sense of justice, or would it carry the burden of guilt, forever altering my understanding of right and wrong? Each question hung in the air, an unresolved knot constricting around my heart. As I stood at this moral crossroads, the conflict within me intensified, drawing everyone into the emotional whirlpool of instinct and reason. I had to decide whether silence was still my ally, or if my voice would finally rise to demand accountability, a choice that could lead to liberation or further ensnare me in the webs of betrayal and vengeance. As the weight of Sarah's revelation settled heavily on my shoulders, I found myself standing at an emotional crossroads, caught in the throes of an intense internal battle. Here I was, faced with the swirling tempest of pain and betrayal, juxtaposed against the lure of revenge. The revelation was a double-edged sword. While it tempted me with the prospect of exposing Sarah's secrets and finally confronting her for the betrayal that had shattered my world, I couldn't ignore the accompanying risks. What would be the cost of such exposure? Would it deepen my own wounds, or might it provide the clarity I sought on my path to healing? Each scenario played out like a film reel in my mind, painting vivid pictures of anguish, conflict, and potential vindication. I spent restless nights wrestling with my thoughts, revisiting the vow of silence that had marked my year of introspection. This vow had been my shield, my declaration of resilience amid the chaos Sarah had thrust upon me. Yet now, it felt paradoxical. My silence was both a protective barrier and a prison that constrained my choices. I realized that my commitment to silence had become a manifestation of my pain, a symbol of strength in refusing to give my betrayal a voice. But standing here, with the truth of Sarah's dark secret within reach, I felt that very strength begin to waver. The thought of exposing her wrongdoings stirred something within me. Was it justice I sought, or merely revenge cloaked in righteousness? As I pondered these questions, the tension escalated, each thought amplifying the fight within. My heart raced at the thought of how this decision could shape my journey forward, impacting not only Sarah's life but also my own healing process. Would remaining silent allow me to move on? Or was it the act of confronting this truth that might finally release me from the chains of betrayal? The audience, leaning in closely, could perhaps sense my turmoil, sharing in the emotional weight as they too grappled with the idea that sometimes the hardest battles are fought within our own hearts. Would I honor my vow and protect my own spirit? Or would I succumb to the cries of vengeance, risking everything for a fleeting moment of satisfaction? Each option carried the promise of change, but at what cost? The story teetered on the brink of revelation, a point of suspense that left everyone breathless, waiting for my next move. The moment I decided to confront Sarah felt like stepping onto unstable ground, and the air crackled with an intensity that threatened to explode. As I entered the small cafe, where we had shared so many memories, my heart pounded, each beat echoing the years of hurt and resentment I had bottled up inside. When our eyes met, the weight of unresolved feelings hung between us, palpable and suffocating. I could see the recognition in her gaze, a mixture of fear and guilt, a reflection of the chasm that had grown wide since our friendship shattered. I took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of the moment push down on me. It was time to lay bare the raw truth lurking in the shadows of our past. As I spoke, every word trembled with the weight of heartbreak and fury, a cathartic release that felt both terrifying and liberating. I told her how her betrayal had felt like a knife twisting in my back, how her silence had rendered me voiceless, stuck in a purgatory of pain and isolation. The fury bubbled to the surface, but it was intertwined with anguish, revealing the vulnerability I had always kept hidden. I wanted her to understand the depth of my suffering, how each day of silence had been both a fortress and a prison. Sarah listened, her eyes brimming with tears as she faced the storm of her own choices. The cafe around us blurred into insignificance as we navigated the tumultuous waters of our fractured relationship. In this climactic moment, I could feel the tension of our confrontation ignite the air around us. Would our shared history, grief, laughter, countless memories allow room for reconciliation, or had the betrayal stained everything beyond repair? I thought of the revelation I had uncovered, the secret that could ruin Sarah, and I could see the fear in her eyes. In that charged atmosphere, each unspoken word became a question, lingering like a haunting melody. Would I choose forgiveness and the chance to rebuild? Or would the thirst for vengeance drown out the possibility of redemption? The audience, absorbed in the raw emotional exchange, could sense the stakes soaring, eagerly awaiting the fateful turn of events that would tip the scale, wondering whether forgiveness could rise from the ashes of betrayal, or if we were both destined to remain trapped in the cycle of hurt and regret. In the aftermath of our confrontation, I felt as though the weight of silence that had once enveloped me was both lifting and crushing at the same time. Each step away from the cafe echoed with the unresolved emotion that lingered between me and Sarah. I had unleashed a torrent of heartache, yet the profound honesty of our exchange left me grappling with the shards of my own soul. The turmoil that had consumed my mind for so long now felt less like a prison and more like a crucible, forging something new from the pain. Yet, the lingering question was never far from my thoughts. What would I do with the knowledge I now possessed, the dark secret that could bring Sarah to her knees? In this moment of vulnerability, I realized I stood at a pivotal junction, the path of silence that had once protected me, or the uncertain road of truth and potential reconciliation. As days turned into a blur, the gravity of my vow hung heavily in the air, each moment reverberating with memories of betrayal and the innate desire for revenge. Amidst the chaos of my emotions, a quiet voice within began to rise, challenging me to confront my own demons. I had spent so long wrestling with how her actions had affected my life, but in that painful yet cathartic discussion, I began to understand that my silence had not only kept me from her, but had also held me back from healing. Perhaps true strength wasn't just about bearing the burden of betrayal in silence, but also about acknowledging my own hurt while finding the grace to forgive. With every reflection, I felt the tension easing, the sharp edges of grief softening into a more profound understanding of our shared humanity. In those moments of contemplation, I realized that the essence of justice is not merely about retribution, but about the capacity to evolve from painful experiences. As I considered Sarah's struggles and the haunting shadows of her own choices, I weighed them against my own. In doing so, I found a sense of empathy blossoming within me, an ember of understanding that called me to choose a different path, one illuminated by the light of forgiveness rather than darkness of vengeance.